Imagine this: you're standing in a room full of people. Everyone seems busy with their own conversations, their own little worlds. But then, without a single word, you feel eyes linger on you. Maybe just for a second too long. Maybe you notice a shift in body language, someone leaning in slightly, or a smile that feels half hidden, almost unintentional. That's not coincidence. That's attraction leaking through the cracks. The truth is, most people won't announce it. They'll bury it under layers of politeness, distraction, or even denial. And if you're not sharp enough to notice, you'll walk right past signals that could have changed the entire dynamic of that room. Attraction, when it's real, doesn't scream, it whispers. And only the men who learn to hear those whispers gain the upper hand. One of the most hidden signs is eye contact that doesn't match the situation. A glance that lingers just a fraction too long, or one that darts away the second your eyes meet. Both are giveaways. When someone looks at you and then immediately looks down, it's not always shyness. It's the body betraying interest, a flash of vulnerability that says, "You've been noticed." But here's where most men destroy the moment: they either pounce, over-investing with forced attention, or they completely miss it, trapped in their own head. The right move. Hold the eye contact just long enough to register, then return to your own frame. You don't chase. You don't reward nervous energy with needy energy. You let them sit with the fact that you noticed and chose not to make it easy. Another sign hides in the subtle mirroring of your movements. Maybe you lean back, and a few seconds later, she adjusts the same way. Maybe you scratch your jaw, shift your stance, and suddenly she's doing something eerily similar. This isn't magic, it's biology. Mirroring is the unconscious way humans try to establish rapport. The trap is thinking it's always intentional or romantic. It's not. Sometimes it's just habit. But when the mirroring is consistent, when you can repeat a movement and watch it ripple through them a moment later, that's attraction bleeding out of control. The tactic here: don't mirror back. Don't create a feedback loop of subconscious chasing. Stay still. Watch. Confirm. Let her be the one aligning with you. You'll also notice how laughter becomes disproportionate. Something you said, something that wasn't even that funny, suddenly gets a bigger reaction than it deserved. That's not comedy. That's chemistry. People laugh harder, longer, and with less resistance when they're attracted. But here's the danger if you start chasing that laugh. If you start trying to perform for it, you fall into clown energy. You stop being the man she's responding to and start becoming the man who's trying to keep her entertained. The stronger move is to let her laughter roll past you like it's normal. Don't inflate, don't self-deprecate. Just stay calm, because calmness creates scarcity. Scarcity builds tension. Tension multiplies attraction. Pay close attention, too, to proximity. Attraction rarely keeps distance. If someone keeps finding reasons to be close to you, brushing past, leaning in to say something they could have said from a step away, or hovering near your side when the room has plenty of space that's not random, that's gravity at work. But here's where you must be sharp. Some people will use proximity as a power play, testing if you'll fold, if you'll break your frame and lean in too much, too soon. The right move is counterintuitive. Hold your ground. Don't lean away in discomfort, but don't collapse into their space either. Stay planted. Make them orbit you. And then there's attention disguised as distraction. Someone pretending not to care, but constantly reacting whenever you speak. They might not look directly, but their body angles toward you. Their feet point in your direction. Their laughter comes a beat quicker when your voice enters the conversation. It's not loud, It's not obvious, but it's deliberate. They're invested in tracking your presence without admitting it, and if you're naive, you'll think it's nothing. But if you're sharp, you'll see it for what it is: suppressed attraction. The tactic here is silence. Don't rush to fill the air. Let your absence make them restless. Let them be the one to bridge the gap. You've probably already experienced at least one of these signs without realizing it. That girl at the coffee shop who smiled for no reason. The coworker who laughs harder at your joke than anyone else. The friend who always ends up next to you at gatherings. The truth is, attraction hides in these tiny, almost invisible signals. But most men miss them, or worse, misinterpret them and lose all power. If you train yourself to see them clearly, to stay composed instead of overreacting, you stop being the man who wonders, does she like me, and become the man who already knows because her behavior told you long before her words did. Have you ever recognized yourself in this exact situation, where someone's energy gave them away before their words did? Which one of these subtle signals have you missed in the past that makes sense to you now? And if you were honest, how many times have you overchased because you misread laughter or eye contact as an invitation instead of a test? Another hidden sign is when someone remembers the small details you casually dropped in conversation. You might mention your favorite coffee order once, or a childhood story you barely care about anymore, and suddenly it comes back to you through them. They bring it up, almost as if to test whether you'll notice that they remembered. That's not just friendliness, that's investment. The human brain doesn't hold on to trivial details unless there's a reason, unless there's emotional weight attached. If you've ever felt surprised when a woman recalls something you said weeks ago, pay attention. She wasn't rehearsing it for fun. She was holding on to it because you mattered. But here's the mistake: most men instantly get flattered and start rewarding that investment with too much enthusiasm. They reveal just how starved they are for attention, and in doing so, they give away the upper hand. The sharper move is acknowledgement without inflation. A calm, "Yeah, I remember telling you that," while staying in your frame. Let her investment linger in the air without you scrambling to double it. That's how you maintain control. When she invests, you don't immediately out-invest. You let the balance stay in your favor. Then there's the jealousy spike. Watch how her energy shifts when another woman enters the picture. She doesn't have to say anything. Sometimes it's as subtle as her posture stiffening, her tone sharpening, or her silence growing louder when you give someone else attention. It's not about the surface reaction, it's about the fact that she noticed. Jealousy is a raw signal of attraction, but it's also dangerous, because this is where manipulation often begins. If you chase the jealousy, if you try to soothe it, you've already lost. You've admitted that her emotions control your behavior. The tactic here is composure. You acknowledge the shift without catering to it. You let her wrestle with her own emotions while you stay grounded. That's how you prove that you can't be manipulated through withdrawal or coldness. Another sign hides in communication frequency. When someone looks for reasons to text you about nothing, sending you memes, random updates, or pointless questions, they're not bored. They're trying to sustain connection. They don't want the energy to die. The average man gets hooked here, mistaking it for affection and becoming the one who starts over-communicating, suffocating the very attraction that's sparked in the first place. You want the strategy respond, but don't mirror the frequency, match the tone, not the volume. Keep your responses measured, concise, sometimes even delayed. That unpredictability keeps you from becoming her emotional outlet on demand. You aren't her entertainment system, you're the man she has to earn responses from. Then we reach the nervous slip-ups. Maybe she stumbles on her words around you, fidgets with her jewelry, plays with her hair, or adjusts her clothes. It's not insecurity, it's the body scrambling to regulate energy it can't contain. Most men see this and either tease too hard, breaking the tension, or they get so awkward themselves that the entire interaction collapses. The sharper move is to let the nervousness exist without rescuing it. Hold the tension. Let her feel it. Attraction thrives on tension. If you collapse it, you destroy it. If you hold it, you deepen it. Sometimes, the attraction is even clearer in absence. When you leave the room, and suddenly you hear your name brought up, or people mention that she asked about you when you weren't around. That's attraction that couldn't be contained. Humans don't talk about people they don't think about. But here's the trap when you hear about it. Don't run back to her with validation. Don't turn it into a victory lap. Hold your frame. Let her curiosity keep working in silence. Make her come to you directly if she wants more. And then there's the way someone fights to prolong interaction. Ever notice when a conversation should have ended, but somehow it keeps going? She could have said goodbye, but instead she finds another topic. She could have walked away, but instead she lingers, asking just one more question. That's not by accident, that's the refusal to let the energy end. And yet, this is where men ruin it most often. They take the extension and drag it out into something desperate, exhausting the spark instead of preserving it. The smarter move is to end it yourself while she's still invested. Leave the interaction with her wanting more. Not relieved it's finally over. Attraction isn't in the obvious declarations. It lives in the tiny betrayals of body, memory, and emotion. And if you can see it, you'll realize how much silent power you've ignored your entire life. Most men wander blind, waiting for words, waiting for permission. But the man who reads the signals never has to ask, "Does she like me?" He already knows. And because he knows, he never has to overinvest. Think about it. Has anyone ever remembered something small you said and it caught you off guard? Have you noticed how someone lingered too long in a goodbye or got colder when another woman got close? Which of these moments have you missed before, only to realize now what they really meant? One of the most overlooked signs is how someone's energy changes when you shift your attention away. You've probably seen it. You're talking to her. Everything feels light, connected, alive. Then your focus drifts maybe to your phone, maybe to another person in the room, and suddenly her vibe hardens. She becomes quieter, or she tries to reclaim your attention with some small interruption, even a sarcastic jab. That's not coincidence. That's the discomfort of losing your spotlight. When attraction is present, silence from you is louder than words. And here's where the strategy matters. Don't immediately rush to fix the silence. Don't validate the attention grab. Let her sit with the discomfort of not being your center. When she fights for your attention, you've already proven your gravity. Another hidden sign shows up in how she frames your presence to others. Pay attention to whether she introduces you differently, whether she highlights your qualities to her friends, or whether she positions you in a way that gives you status in her circle. Attraction isn't just what she does with you, it's how she talks about you when others are around. If she builds you up in front of people, she's marking territory. But the common male mistake, taking this as a green light to prove himself further, to perform harder, that ruins the balance. The smarter tactic is quiet confidence. You accept the framing without adding fireworks. You let her elevate you, while you remain unbothered, almost as if it was expected. That indifference to validation strengthens your position. There's also the subtle testing. Attraction often hides behind little challenges, playful teasing, sharp remarks, or sudden withdrawals to see if you'll chase. This is where most men fail, because they treat these tests as rejection instead of proof of interest. Women don't test men they don't care about. The test itself is attraction disguised as resistance. But here's the psychological trap if you collapse, defend yourself, or over-explain. You've proven that her emotional swings can dictate your behavior. The sharper move: laugh at the test, acknowledge it without bowing to it. Play along, but don't chase approval. Let her see that her attempts to destabilize you only expose her own interest. Watch also for how often she tries to justify her presence. Maybe she shows up in places she doesn't normally go, with excuses so thin you could see through them instantly. "Oh, I was just in the area. I didn't even know you'd be here." Don't be fooled, people don't reroute their lives for no reason. If her path suddenly crosses yours more often than coincidence allows, it's attraction driving the detour. The mistake here is calling it out directly, which shatters the subtlety and embarrasses her into retreat. The better tactic is to treat it as natural, while privately clocking the signal. Let her efforts stay in the shadows while you stay in your frame. And then there's the way she gives weight to your opinion. If someone cares too much about what you think, your taste in music, your thoughts on her outfit, your reaction to her story, that's not about casual curiosity. That's about investment. She's measuring herself against your perception, whether she admits it or not. Most men take this as a chance to shower compliments, thinking they're building connection. But when you flood her with approval, you kill the tension that her investment created. The sharper move is measured feedback, a simple nod, a subtle smile, or even a delayed response. Make her work to interpret your reaction instead of spoon-feeding her validation. Scarcity always beats abundance in the psychology of attraction. Sometimes, the attraction slips out in moments of protectiveness. Maybe she defends you in a group conversation, or she quickly corrects someone who misrepresents you. It's subtle, but it's her staking a claim, showing where her loyalty lies. Again, most men ruin this by over-rewarding it, turning it into a celebration. The stronger play is appreciation without dramatization. A quiet thanks, or even no reaction at all, because silence keeps the act powerful. When you don't inflate it, you allow her loyalty to deepen, because it came from her, not because you begged for it. The last sign hides in the tiny sacrifices. She'll inconvenience herself to make something easier for you, even in small ways. Offering to help when she doesn't have to, adjusting her schedule just to see you, choosing your comfort over hers. That's not friendliness, that's prioritization. And prioritization means attraction. But here's the harsh truth: if you reward these sacrifices by overgiving, you invert the polarity and drain the tension. The sharper strategy is acknowledgement paired with restraint. Appreciate, yes, but don't drown her in it. Let her keep choosing to invest. Because when she invests without being overpaid in return, her attraction only grows deeper. Think back. Now, have you noticed someone trying to grab your attention back the second you pulled away? Have you ever had someone show up by coincidence far too often to be random? And if you're honest, how many times have you destroyed the tension by over-rewarding instead of letting her interest simmer in silence? The deepest hidden signs of attraction aren't always sweet. They can come out as contradictions, little glitches in someone's behavior that don't quite add up. You'll notice when she says one thing, but her body betrays another. She'll claim she doesn't care, but her eyes flash when you give another woman attention. She'll act like she's indifferent, yet she's the one circling back into your orbit again and again. These inconsistencies aren't random. They're attraction fighting against pride, ego, or fear of vulnerability. Most men misinterpret this. They believe the words, not the actions. And because of that, they let themselves be led away from the truth that was written in her behavior the whole time. One powerful sign is overcompensation. Ever had someone tease you more than necessary, act colder than the situation called for, or dismiss you while their body language screamed the opposite? That's attraction cloaked in defense. When people are afraid of being obvious, they swing the other way. If you're sharp, you won't get baited. You won't chase their approval to prove them wrong. You'll let their contradictions sit in the air, exposing them without you lifting a finger. This is how you maintain psychological leverage. You recognize the mask, but you never rip it off for them. Another sign is emotional volatility around you. One day she's warm, the next she's distant. She lights up when you arrive, then goes quiet when you don't give her attention. This roller coaster isn't instability, it's the cost of caring. People who don't care stay flat. People who do care swing. But here's the trap most men chase when it's cold and celebrate when it's warm. They ride the wave instead of anchoring themselves. That's exactly how manipulation takes root. The stronger move is to stay even when she swings. You don't chase when she withdraws. You don't inflate when she's glowing. You stay constant, forcing her to calibrate to you instead of you bending to her. Pay attention also to competitive energy. If she tries to one-up you, challenge you, or outperform you in small ways, that's not hostility, it's tension disguised as rivalry. Humans only compete with those who matter to them. But again, the mistake is engaging the competition too directly. If you try to beat her at her own game, you collapse into her frame. The sharper play is to laugh at it, brush it off, or let her win without caring. Indifference here is power, because it turns her effort into self-exposure. She'll feel the imbalance. Why does she care so much? While you remain unshaken, that realization drives her deeper. Another hidden sign is how quickly she forgives your mistakes. Think about it, people who aren't invested will cut you off at the first inconvenience. But when she likes you, she bends, she lets things slide, she makes excuses for you in her own head. That's not softness, it's attraction overriding logic. If you notice this, don't exploit it by piling mistakes on top of each other. But don't over-apologize either. Too much guilt kills polarity. A calm acknowledgement, paired with the confidence that you don't need to beg for forgiveness, keeps the balance intact. Silence also betrays attraction. Not the silence of indifference, but the silence that hums with unsaid tension. When conversations pause and she doesn't run to fill the gap. When her eyes hold yours without words. When she lingers even though nothing is being said, that's attraction speaking louder than dialogue. Most men panic here. They rush to fill the void, to keep things comfortable. But the void is the point. That silence is where the charge lives. Hold it. Let it stretch. Let her feel her own heartbeat in that quiet. That's the kind of silence that makes her replay you in her mind hours later. Finally, the biggest hidden sign is effort that comes without demand. When she goes out of her way to look different around you, to present herself at her best, or to create opportunities for you to notice her. That's the rawest form of interest. No one invests energy into appearances or effort unless there's someone they want to affect. But here's the harsh reality: if you acknowledge it too directly, you kill it. If you smother it with compliments, you turn her effort into a transaction. The stronger move is subtle recognition, a glance, a smirk, a moment of awareness that says you see it. But you won't hand out cheap validation. You let her efforts keep flowing, because the more she invests, the deeper her own attraction roots itself. Attraction hides not in words, but in the cracks of behavior contradictions, sacrifices, slips of vulnerability. The question is whether you'll stay blind to it, or whether you'll sharpen your vision enough to see what most men never will. And once you see it, whether you'll have the self-control not to ruin it with overexcitement, because in the game of attraction, the man who can hold back always wins. So now, I'll ask you directly, have you ever ignored someone's contradictions, only to realize later they were signs of interest? Have you mistaken emotional swings for rejection instead of proof of attraction? And what's the hardest part for you holding silence? Or not over-rewarding the effort you notice? Here's the brutal truth most men never want to face. Attraction isn't about what you say, it's about what you can hold. The signs have always been there, you just didn't know how to read them, or worse, you read them and reacted like a boy instead of a man. You thought eye contact was an invitation, so you leaned in too far. You thought her laughter was approval, so you started performing like a clown. You thought her jealousy was love, so you bent over backwards to reassure her. Every time, you gave away the frame. Every time, you turned attraction into control she could use against you. The reality is simple people who secretly find you attractive will never say it outright. They'll test you with silence. They'll tease you with inconsistency. They'll bait you with small sacrifices and emotional swings. And the battlefield isn't out there, it's inside you. Can you resist the urge to chase? Can you watch her orbit without collapsing into her pull? Can you see the signs and do nothing? Because nothing is the most powerful move. Think of the last time you lost control. Maybe she pulled away and you texted first, desperate to fix the distance. Maybe she laughed at your joke and you doubled down, desperate to keep the energy alive. Maybe she showed you loyalty and you rewarded it with so much validation that the polarity evaporated. Every mistake you made came from fear, the fear of losing her attention, the fear of losing the spark. But that fear is what killed the attraction faster than anything else. The truth is, attraction grows in the spaces you don't fill. It multiplies when you hold your ground instead of leaning forward. It deepens when you let her contradictions sit unchallenged, when you let her be the one to resolve the tension. This is why the men who succeed aren't the loudest or the funniest. They're the men who can sit in silence, watch the signs, and refuse to break their frame. They don't need to chase, because the signals already prove everything. They don't need to explain, because her actions speak louder than her words. And here's the shift you need to make right now. Stop thinking attraction is something you create. Start realizing it's something you uncover. The signs are already around you, lingering eyes, nervous laughter, proximity, jealousy, investment. But they only matter if you know how to handle them. If you overreact, you lose. If you collapse, you lose. If you chase, you lose. The only way you win is by standing still while everything around you moves toward you. This doesn't mean arrogance. It means control. It means you never reward nervous energy with neediness. You never feed jealousy with reassurance. You never turn investment into a transaction. You recognize, you hold, and you let the other person live in the imbalance their attraction created. Because attraction is imbalance. It's someone giving more energy than they wanted to, losing composure when they swore they wouldn't, showing interest when they swore they didn't care. That imbalance is your leverage. Don't destroy it by trying to even the scales. You've spent too much of your life blind to these signals, waiting for someone to spell it out for you. That blindness has cost you time, power, and respect. But you're not blind anymore. You've seen how attraction whispers through contradictions, sacrifices, and silence. And now the choice is yours. Will you keep fumbling the signals like every other man? Or will you sharpen yourself into the kind of man who never asks, "Does she like me?" again? Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you understand it, you can never return to ignorance. Attraction has always been around you. It's just been waiting for you to step into the power of restraint. She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.